I've recently gotten a handful of questions asking something along the lines of, "Hey Jared, am Guy track the 365th? Yes, that's my full legal name, it's on my birth certificate, look it up on the Goog. Why aren't American locomotives built with 2 cabs like they are in Europe and Asia?" Well, that got me to dust off my old thinking cap because this design is seldom used here in the States. They used to be more common, but now they've essentially up and disappeared apart from the few electric locomotives we have. One of the earliest American examples of a dual-cab single-unit locomotive dates back to the New Haven's EP1 in 1905. It was an early example of the box cab design, a name derived from the fact it was shaped very much like a boxcar. A cabin control stand at each end enabled bidirectional operation, so the engineer could simply just swap cabs, run the locomotive around the train, and make a return trip with no costly or time-consuming turntable or Y-track needed. Upon entering service between 1907 and 08, they handled passenger trains on the recently electrified main line between New York City's Grand Central Terminal and Stamford, Connecticut, extending their reach to New Haven by 1914. The box cab and dual cab design was later replicated on the likes of the Boston and Maine, St. Clair Tunnel Company, Great Northern, Milwaukee Road, Central Railroad of New Jersey, among others. All of these locomotives had a few things in common that made dual cabs practical. Case number 1. Shuttle service. Smoke from steam locomotives posed the danger of hella low visibility and lethal smoke inhalation in tunnels and terminals. Dual cab electric locomotive shuttling trains through these areas would alleviate this concern. They'd couple onto a train, bring it from point A to B, hand it off to a steam or diesel locomotive to finish the trip, and then the engineer swaps cabs to grab another train heading the opposite way. It was a quick and easy turnaround method given these electric locomotives usually weren't running as far as their steam and diesel cousins. Case number 2. Switching. Dual cabs were often seen on early gas or diesel electric switchers as they'd be frequently running back and forth around cars, in and around tight industry trackage, loading railcar ferries, and making transfer or local freight runs. It was just easier and quicker to swap cabs than find a turntable or Y. Central Railroad of New Jersey No. 1000 was a famous example built in 1925 and successfully demonstrated the diesel's potential as a cleaner, cheaper, and more flexible yard switcher compared to steam. However, the box cab design was ditched in the 1930s in favor of the end cab diesel switcher that provided additional visibility and walkways either side of the body. Case number 3. Commuter service. Commuter and some passenger trains run over shorter distances, running back and forth along the same line all day, maintaining tight schedules. Some lines and stations are also stub-ended, so locomotives need a turntable or Y to turn around. The only dual cab locomotive built specifically for this purpose was the Baldwin Locomotive Works' DRX 64-2000 in November 1946 for the C&J subsidiary, the Wharton and Northern. This design eliminated the need to turn around at the stub-ended Communipaw terminal. As dieselization became more prominent during the 1940s and 50s, the AB unit setup allowed railroads to customize how much power they needed by simply adding more boosters, with configurations like ABA and ABBA allowing for bidirectional operation. By the 1960s and 70s, the road switcher and hood units gained mass popularity for their well-rounded performance and increased visibility provided to crews. Freight trains were also growing in size, and more power was needed. But instead of ordering B units, railroads just slapped on more A units and usually positioned them front to back so they wouldn't have to turn around if they picked up another train heading the opposite direction. At that rate, why not just give all locomotives 2 cabs? A ton of railways across the world were doing it. So what makes you so special, America? Well, freight trains here tend to be far longer and heavier, spanning just over a mile long on average. But 2-mile-long trains aren't unheard of either thanks to the practice of precision-scheduled railroading combining 2 full trains into 1 Goliath. For comparison, the average modern European freight train spans 2,427 to 2,788 feet long. India comes in at 2,296 feet, and Australia at 4,921 to 5,905 feet. With a 20-car European freight, it only really needs 1 dual-cab locomotive. At the end of their run, All the engineer has to do is swap cabs, run the locomotive around on a siding, and they can pick up another load heading the opposite way. With a single cab locomotive, you'd have to turn it around unless the crew decides to run long hood forward, a less than ideal practice that limits visibility. Most American freight trains need at least 2 or 3 engines, so positioning them front to back serves the same purpose as dual cabs without the extra cost of said second cab. You'll also see this practice in Australia, Brazil, Indonesia, and South Africa. Adding an extra cab is pretty expensive to build and maintain, and manufacturers would be adding extra length and weight, and sacrificing space that could instead be used to add a larger and stronger prime mover and other components. But what about the European and Asian GEVOs? They're just as powerful as their American counterparts and still have dual cabs. Europe and Asia are running shorter freights that typically only need 1 locomotive that'll have to turn around at some point. America is running longer freights that require multiple units facing front to back, with that rear-facing locomotive acting as the second cab. Sure, a single electric locomotive provides a lot more horsepower, but given the fact less than 1% of the American rail network is electrified, I don't think we'll be seeing electrified freight on the main line anytime soon. Most electric locomotives on the Northeast Corridor have come with dual cabs as they're built for passenger service and/or derivatives of European designs aptly suited for quick turnarounds. Otherwise, cab cars or another locomotive at the rear serve as the second cab on commuter and intercity passenger trains. On multiple unit Amtrak trains, all locomotives typically face forward. Should the lead unit break down, they can swap leaders and carry on. Dual cab locomotives in America were historically best suited for very specific short-distance operations like shuttling trains, switching, or passenger service where quick turnarounds were necessary. With today's long and heavy freight trains requiring 2 or more units, it's simply cheaper to have multiple single cab locomotives facing front to back as opposed to dual cabs, given it essentially serves the same purpose. But it's still fun to imagine what a dual cab F40PH, P42DC, GP38-2, or American GEVO might look like. Thank you to my channel members. Special thanks to Tommy Rosini, Grand Canyon Studios, Amtrak Fan 19, The Warrior Cats Train Enthusiast, 281 Productions, Aspen, SM4, MRK8, and Moose Railfan Productions for subscribing to the Conductor tier. Your extra support always goes a long way in helping me, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you in another video.